Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of UCLA InterAxon's Neuroscience for Kids. Today, we will be learning about the spinal cord and the vertebral column. If you haven't seen our neuron video yet, now might be a good time to go watch it, just so you're familiar with the terms in this lesson. Let's begin. The spinal cord is a long cylinder-shaped structure that goes all the way from the base of the brain to your lower back. It's about 43 centimeters long in women and 45 centimeters long in men, a little longer than a bowling pin. The spinal cord is really important because it sends signals between your body and the brain, helps you move, and gives you cat-like reflexes. Because it's so important, it's covered by 3 protective layers called the meninges. These layers provide a cushion for the spinal cord, and from inner to outermost, they are the pia, arachnoid, and dura mater. Your spinal cord is also protected by the vertebral column, but we'll get to that later. Let's make a quick cross-section to check out the spinal cord up close. The spinal cord is made of white and gray matter. White matter is this outer part and has myelinated axons. Gray matter is this butterfly-shaped structure and has cell bodies. We can divide the gray matter into 2 basic parts, dorsal and ventral. Dorsal means back, and ventral means front. One way to remember which one is in the back is by thinking of a dolphin. Its dorsal fin is on its back. The dorsal horn is home to the cell bodies of sensory neurons. Your sensory neurons are afferent, which means they send signals from parts of your body, like your skin, up to the brain. The ventral horn has the cell bodies of motor neurons. Motor neurons are efferent, which means they carry signals away from your brain and spinal cord to your muscles. Therefore, motor neurons help you move. Now that you're familiar with the spinal cord cross-section, let's go over spinal cord functions. The spinal cord has 3 main functions: conduction, locomotion, and reflexes. We'll start with conduction. The spinal cord conducts or guides signals between different body parts in the brain. You can think of it as a busy tunnel leading to the brain, where afferent cars drive up and efferent cars drive down. The spinal cord's second function is locomotion. Your spinal cord is home to central pattern generator, or CPG, a group of neurons that make the rhythmic pattern of your walk. Scientists are very interested in the CPG because learning more about it can help us treat patients who have trouble with movement. And finally, the spinal cord supports your reflexes. A reflex is an involuntary response, or a behavior you can't control. Has your doctor ever tapped your knee with a small plastic hammer? Did your leg kick forward automatically? That's called the knee jerk reflex. The reason your leg kicks forward beyond your control is because the tap signal goes directly to your spinal cord, which immediately sends a signal back to your muscle to move, without ever reaching your brain. Since you need your spinal cord for such important functions, it makes sense that it's very well protected with the meninges and the vertebral column.
Now that we've covered spinal cord functions, why don't we move on to the vertebrae? The vertebrae are a series of small bones with openings called foramen that let the spinal cord pass through. The spinal cord is made up of 31 nerve segments, which can be organized into 5 main sections. From top to bottom, these 5 are the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal sections. These names refer to the nerves and bones at that level. We'll start with the cervical vertebrae. Cervical vertebrae support your head and neck so you can rotate them without getting hurt. You know how you're told to cover your head and neck during an earthquake? What you're really protecting by doing this is your cervical vertebrae. Next, we have thoracic vertebrae. These bones help keep your body upright and connect to your rib cage. Your rib cage is very important because it protects your heart and lungs. Under the thoracic section, we have lumbar segments in the lower back. The spinal cord actually ends around the 2nd lumbar vertebra. Your vertebral column grows faster than your spinal cord, so they don't line up perfectly. The 5 lumbar vertebrae are the biggest, strongest bones of the vertebral column. This makes sense because the lower the vertebrae, the more weight they carry. Your cervical bones only have to carry your head and neck, but your lumbar bones have to carry your head, rib cage, and back. This makes lumbar segments prone to injury. Have you ever heard of an adult complaining about lower back pain? Well, they must have had a lumbar injury. After the lumbar bones, we have the sacral segment. Sacral vertebrae form the base of the spinal column and connect with hip bones to form the pelvis. Your sacral segments fuse together into a single bone by the age of 30. That means your sacral vertebrae are still fusing as you watch this video. And finally, we have the coccygeal segment. It's the tail-like bone at the bottom of the spine. The coccygeal segment is actually 4 fused vertebrae, and it helps you stay balanced when you're sitting down. Since we've made the journey from our cervical to coccygeal vertebrae, we can talk about scoliosis, a condition where the spine bends to the side. It usually begins during the growth spurt, right before puberty. Girls are more likely to have scoliosis than boys, but anyone is more likely to have it if their parents or siblings have it. If left untreated, scoliosis can lead to back pain and more serious problems like pressure on the lungs, making it hard to breathe. This can be prevented with early treatment like using a brace or having surgery to realign and fuse the curved bones. With the technology we have today, scoliosis surgeons can really improve the curvatures. Now that we've discussed the spinal cord and vertebral column, why don't we review what you've just learned?
Which matter has axons, white or gray matter? White matter, of course. Which horn would have motor neurons, the dorsal or ventral horn? Ventral horn is correct. Can you name the group of neurons that makes the rhythmic pattern of your walk? Yes, it's called the central pattern generator, or CPG for short. Do you remember the names of the meninges? From inner to outermost, they are the pia, arachnoid, and dura mater.
What's the name of the opening in the vertebrae that let the spinal cord pass through? Foramen is correct. Can you name the 5 sections of the spinal cord from top to bottom? They are the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal segments. Which vertebral segment would have the stronger bones, the cervical or the lumbar segments? Yes, it would be lumbar because it has more to carry. And finally, can you name the condition where the vertebrae curve to one side? Scoliosis is correct. Nice job on the quiz. We hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you again soon.